Hello. You have logged into the Talking Points Preparing for Remote and Hybrid Learning webinar. We're going to give it a few minutes to see if we have other people who would like to join us. But for now, as you join, it would be awesome if we could have you introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're calling in from so we can see where all of our people are at. We'll give it a few minutes for other friends to join us. Anna, you are welcome to stay and share the information with the admin or teachers at your school. It's one of our shorter webinars about how to prepare your staff and your admin for the potential of remote and hybrid learning in the fall. I know a lot of us don't know exactly what our situation will be in the fall or next month. It's so soon. But we're going to kind of highlight some of the features that Talking Points has that you can use to do that. So if you want to stick around and see what you can pass on to your team, that would be awesome. Totally up to you. We've got North Carolina and Oakland. Where's Met West? Brandy, let us know where you're coming from.
I think that's the same school as Logan.
Oh, it is. Yep. I looked at the city. I didn't look at the. Nice. Got principal and assistant principal, secretary. Awesome. These are going to be really useful tools on Talking Points for all of these folks at your schools to get prepared for continuing some good relationships with families, even when we're far apart. Since we're not exactly sure what the school year is going to look like. My name is Paige. I should have introduced myself. My name is Paige. I am Marketing Community Associate here at Talking Points, and I am in Nashville, Tennessee. And our school district is actually announcing today, I think right now, what their plans are for the fall. So it'll be interesting to see what that is. We've also got principal at SCSD. That's one of our big school districts. Welcome. Alma, would you like to introduce yourself before I get started?
Sure. My name is Alma, and I'm the Partnerships Development Associate here at Talking Points, and I'll be helping Paige today answer some questions and make sure that we give you all the greatest information on how to use Talking Points this upcoming school year.
Awesome. Thank you, Alma. So here's how our webinars work. Some of you may have already been in some of our Getting Started webinars, but if you would like to ask some questions, there's a Q&A bucket down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can throw questions in there, and while I'm walking through the product, Alma can actually answer those questions, or if I see them, I can answer them live and show you what the answer is on the actual web application. So we are going to go ahead and look at Talking Points for schools and districts. So here is what your homepage looks like. Just a heads up before we get started. So this webinar, as you know, is focused on using Talking Points to get ourselves prepared for this remote, hybrid learning, whatever this year is going to be for you, and making sure that we know how to get in contact and stay in contact with our families. If you are looking for a more in-depth how to use my Talking Points account webinar, we're going to be starting those back up. They're called our Getting Started webinars. We're going to be starting those back up in August. So we're working on that schedule, and you'll be getting email notification about those pretty soon here in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. But right now, we're going to look at certain features on Talking Points that we can use to get prepped for the coming year. So over here in the left-hand panel of your account, you'll see contacts. You'll want to go in there and it will pull up all of your contacts. They've been separated into who's using SMS text, who's using the Talking Points parent app, if someone has unsubscribed, if there are numbers that aren't working. We give you all of that information so that you can use that in building those relationships and knowing how to contact everyone. So one thing we need to look at is if we have anyone who has unsubscribed, you can see here that Abby's contact has unsubscribed. That means that they texted the word stop or the word goodbye alone to stop receiving messages. That's a parent that before the school year starts, I'd probably want to contact and see if that was done on purpose, or if they would like to start receiving messages again, or if they prefer to be called on the phone or email. Going through and seeing who those contacts are that have unsubscribed is going to be really important in making sure that they are getting contacted the way that they want to be contacted. You'll also have this option here for invalid phone numbers. That could pop up for a few different reasons. It could be that they've put in a landline phone, and since we work through SMS text, we cannot contact landline phones. They have to be cell phones. It could also be that that phone number is not existent. It could be that it was typed in wrong. So that's another family that you would want to get in contact with. Another way to make sure that you've got the most up-to-date contact information for them. Also in your contacts, so let's look at Abby. You can see who the contact is. All teachers and admin know that we can never assume that the person we're talking to is mom or dad. It's not necessarily. It could be an uncle, grandma, grandpa, could be a sibling. So looking at the relation of that contact is important when we're trying to build strong relationships and show that we know our families really well. You can also add additional contacts if mom is not the only one that wants to be in contact about Abby. And since you are admin, you have that option in your account. Another place to see some of the same information, but also some other helpful information is your analytics tab. So in here, excuse me, in your analytics, you're going to be able to see a few different things. How many contacts of each language you've got, how many contacts on each platform, valid and invalid phone numbers. Again, these are the people you need to contact ahead of time somehow to make sure you have a way of getting in touch with them, as well as those unsubscribed users. This is great that we right now can contact 98% of our people through Talking Points, and 95% of those are valid numbers. So we're pretty much set to go here. You as admin can also see for your school which teachers are using Talking Points and how. You can see how many messages, which are individual between the teacher and the contact, versus announcements that go out to their whole class. You can see that Ethel is sending more announcements than individual messages versus Caroline, who's sending more messages than announcements. That could be something you could talk about in one-on-ones with your teachers in talking about their parent communication. And any of these analytics reports that you want to print out or save, there's going to be a show me more kind of option next to it, and you have options of how to download the images of those reports. So just like here with these reports, that same thing is an option for any of them that you'd like to download for your own data keeping. So you've got individual teachers. You can see their usage of the app. You can see who's using it the most as well, if you want to do an incentive kind of thing. And then you can see family engagement. So looking at these students, and these are their contacts, the language that they're in, messages sent to teachers. Looks like Abby's contact, or I'm sorry, Opal's contact is not contacting her teacher very much, but she's contacting the school a lot. So looking into these numbers could be very informative in knowing your individual students and their families, what they're comfortable with, who they're comfortable talking to, and maybe digging into why that is and how we can make it better. You can choose the date range here for when you'd like to look at your data, and you can download it by clicking download. So here on analytics, Alma, is there anything you think should be added to the analytics tab that I haven't mentioned?
I think you about covered it all, Paige.
Okay, awesome. Let's move to one of the most important features of Talking Points, in my opinion, especially during this time, is going to be polls. Once you know who you're contacting and how you're contacting them, and making sure that you have updated information for those people who have either unsubscribed or invalid, you can start sending them messages. And right now, the best thing to do is to be asking questions to get yourself prepared. We've put some sample questions up here, like, let's start with the beginning of our polls that we made. Do you speak a language other than English at home? The most important ones are going to be right now, is your kid coming back to school? If you want to know that really quickly, sending a text, you're going to get a lot of responses back. Like, are you comfortable sending them back to school? I'm pretty sure my school district is making it parent choice. So you won't know unless you ask that question, how many days of school a week is your child going to be coming? To give yourself a little bit of a preparation number. Asking about what kinds of devices they have at home, if they have available Wi-Fi. And I want to make it clear that the polls do not have to be yes and no answers either. You are able to put in whatever answers you would like to put in. So let's say I'd like to ask the whole second grade, how many days a week will your child be coming to the building? Not a question we ever thought we'd have to ask our parents, but it's a weird world right now. So how many days a week will your child be returning to the building? I mean, it could be anywhere from 0 to 5 days a week. So you'll add as many options as you would like. 3, 4, or 5. Again, they don't have to be yes or no answers. Then you can either schedule that message to go out at a specific date or time, just as you can do with your regular Talking Points messages. Polls are the same. You can choose to go out tomorrow at, let's say, 1 o'clock. You will click save, and that message has been scheduled. So you can do yes or no questions. You can do multiple answers. It's totally up to you with these polls. Asking questions about the quality of their internet, what devices they have that could be dedicated to schoolwork. Those are the kinds of questions we want to be asking. Once you've sent a poll out and given it a couple days to collect all the answers, you can look at the response breakdown. We have tremendously improved these breakdowns, so they are so much more in depth. So you can see how many responses you got, what percentage was responded to, and then percent breakdowns for each of the answers. So we see here 159 people said yes, that was 61%, and then those are the numbers for the no's. You can download that report if that's something you need to save for yourself, for your records. And then this is my favorite feature. Based on their answers, let's say, awesome, 159 people, they have internet at home. I'm not going to worry about those people. These people I'm worried about, because how are they going to get their work done without internet? So I can select to send a message, a follow-up message to all of the people who responded no in one fell swoop. So if they said that they don't have internet at home, I might ask, what resources do you need in order to be able to get work done from home? Or however you'd like to phrase that question. That could be a more in-depth question. Again, you can schedule it. You can go ahead and send it, attaching things just as you normally would with a Talking Points message. But that's a fabulous way to follow up a poll that you could message them based on their response to that poll. So let's see. I don't see any Q&As. That's awesome. But for right now, if you would, well, first of all, Alma, have I missed anything?
No, you're killing it.
Awesome. We're doing it. All right. So we have about half time left. We have about 15 minutes that we at Talking Points want to know, first of all, do you have further questions about any of the things that I went over? Also, how else could we help you in preparing for this kind of new normal that we're going to have in the schools? So if you have any questions that you want to ask out loud, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. You can type it into the Q&A. We're going to give a few minutes for a quick Q&A. And we want to get all those answers to you now rather than you having to wait. Could also be about any features that we have that you're unsure about how to use in preparing for the school year. So now's your time. Oh, I also needed to add, looking over my notes, I'm remembering starting next year, and Alma might be able to give a better timeline, but starting next year, district product admins will be able to send polls as well. I know I was just showing the school product and school admins can send polls. District product admins will also be able to send polls this coming school year.
Yeah, great point, Paige. So that is an awesome feature that we are adding that will be an additional add-on to the Talking Points for Districts account if you already have that set up. I do also see a couple of questions in the Q&A box. One from Logan. This is probably covered in the basics, but do parents have to do something to subscribe? Do you have an easy doc that we can include in registration to help them understand how? That's a great question, and parents don't have to do anything to subscribe, Logan. The beauty of Talking Points is that we will automatically send Talking Points messages to families by basic SMS text. So they don't have to download anything, they don't have to sign up for anything extra, they'll just start getting the messages from you. April asks, so what will happen to the rosters for the new year? We will have to create them. Will the information for each student disappear? That is a good question. Yes, for the new coming year, April, since you're at Marine Joy, you will have to upload a new spreadsheet for the upcoming school year with the right information. But if you want to, speed that process along so that you can start using Talking Points to send out these great questions that Paige has highlighted, let us know and we can help you jumpstart the setup for the account for the new school year to make sure that all the right information and rosters are there. And Anna asks, what login will same or different when each person or employee has to create? Each person will have their own individual login that is tied to their email address. So they will have to create their own login to be able to get into Talking Points with their particular email. But first, you should make sure, Anna, that they are added into the system so that they do have access. Logan asks, if we use Aries, does the roster update automatically? Yes, it does, Logan. One thing to be sure of, though, is I believe Met West was just added through the COVID period. So I would check in with Kelleth Chin to make sure that you will continue having access to Talking Points for the upcoming school year. But that is a great question.
Awesome. All great questions. We have a little more time if you've got any other questions or you want me to show anything again that you may have missed. Alma, could you share that name in the chat that you just shared?
Yes, absolutely. Let me put that in.
Awesome. This is also a time that if anyone on the webinar has advice, if you've been using Talking Points for a while as an admin or as a teacher and you'd like to share some of the ways that you've built those positive relationships with families through Talking Points, you could absolutely raise your hand or type into the chat and share that with your peers, because I'm sure they would love to hear those stories and be inspired to use Talking Points to create meaningful relationships. That's what we're here to do. Oh, great question, April. April's asking, how can you confirm that a message has been read? I can share screen again. We actually provide read receipts. So when you look at your messages, when you're in your messages, you'll need to go to a specific message thread. Underneath each one, if they are, so it'll be different for parent app users versus SMS users. So here we're looking at a parent who is using the parent app. Those messages, they have a check mark underneath. It says message sent. And since it is green, I believe that means it has been read. Since they are using the, well, let's see.
Yeah, so
we have
a
one
quick
on parent app and one on SMS.
Yeah, great clarification there is for any announcements or group blast messages, we can't provide read receipts because it's going to so many people. But for those individual messages where Paige is hovering over right now, you will see that the check mark is green and shows that the message has been read by both of the parents. So that is a great thing to look into. Make sure that you're identifying those check marks under the individual messages to know if the family has read the message that you sent.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So yeah, and they'll also be different colors. So you see here that this was an individual message because it is a lighter blue, and then these gray ones are the blasts, the announcements. So we know that they received it, but we cannot tell whether or not they read it. Awesome question. And teachers will also be able to see the same read receipts on their accounts as well. Have a few more minutes if you've got any other questions about your Talking Points account. I'd also be interested if anyone wants to throw into the chat if you already know what kind of system your school or district is using this coming year, and you're willing to share just a brief, like, we're doing all remote learning, or we're coming back to school, or we'd be interested to see what our users are going to be experiencing this coming fall, if anyone's willing to share that information as well. Still waiting to find out. Yeah, I think that's most of us probably. When a message is sent to students, does the system send it to all of his or her contacts by default? Great question, April. April's full of good questions. So if you send a message to a student without selecting a specific contact, it will send to all of the contacts. So let's look here. Right here, let's see, we're in this same message that we were looking at a moment ago. Down here next to the send button, you can decide to choose to everyone, mother, or father. So it is totally up to you who sees that message, if you want it to go to all contacts or just one or the other. Great question. I'll also highlight really quickly that when you are on your Talking Points account, if you come up with a question, I should have asked that when we were on the webinar, you've got a help and feedback button. It's this question mark down at the bottom. And if you click that, you can either go to our resources page or start a chat with us. I recommend going to the resources page. We've been building it up quite a bit. There are articles on most of the features that we have, and we're updating it with new screenshots and step-by-steps for our newer apps that have been coming out. But if you don't find what you need there, you can always click chat with us, and it might even be me that answers you back. It might be Alma or another one of my teammates, and we'll get answers to you. Since you are in our school or district product, since you are partners of ours, you get priority in that chat. So you'll be the first people that we answer when we log on. So that is always a good resource to have. Got about 5 more minutes. If there are any more questions anyone would like to ask.
Going once, going twice.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I hope it was helpful. And like I said, you can always contact us through the chat or through the Resources Center to get some answers. And we'll be here to help you out. So thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate what Paige said earlier, starting in August, we will be restarting our Getting Started for School Administrators and Teachers webinar. So probably on a weekly basis. We'll send out more details soon. But for those of you that are just getting started or that have more teachers joining your Talking Points team, like I know in Pickerington, I see Denise is here. That's a great resource to get them trained and make sure that everyone in the district is aware and using Talking Points to the best of their abilities. So again, thank you all for taking time out of your very precious summers that I know you have right now. We're so thankful to have you as a part of our Talking Points community. And thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Alma.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.